Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Caldwell. I'm just going to go through this review for rational expressions. If you would like to do this review on your own and then just check the answer key and submit it, that's totally fine. If you would like to do it together and then submit it, that's fine too. So whatever works for you. If you want to fast forward this video to just the pieces that you need, that's fine. And then just use the answer key to check your answer. That's whatever works for you is totally fine. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and go through this. So take what you need of this. We're going to start with the first piece, which is just simplifying rational expressions. Reminder for simplifying rational expressions, you want to factor everything in the numerator and denominator and then cross out any common factors. All right, so if I look at A on this top part here, I notice I have a GCF. Both of these numbers I can divide by 6. When I divide this by 6, I'm left with just x. When I divide this by 6, I'm left with negative 6. I pulled a 6 out to begin with. That was my GCF. In the bottom here, both 2 and negative 12, I can take out a 2. When I divide this by 2, I'm left with x. When I divide this by 2, I'm left with negative 6. Now that I have fully factored, I'm going to go ahead and cross out anything that's the same, which is that x minus 6. I'm left with 6 over 2. Okay, 6 over 2, I can divide both of those by 2. I'm left with 3 over 1, or I can just write it as 3. All right, for B, again, I'm going to look at the top one. I'm going to factor that. I can use a box if I need to. What multiplies to give me 4 and adds to give me negative 5. Breaking up with x and x. The only way to get 4 is either with 2 and 2 or 1 and 4. So x minus 4, x minus 1 is going to multiply to give me positive 4, add to give me negative 5. On the bottom, this is what we call a difference of squares. It's like having a 0x here. What multiplies to give me negative 6, that adds to give me 0, negative 4, and positive 4. Then I'm going to look at what cancels, the x minus 4s. And I'm left with x minus 1 on top, x plus 4 on the bottom. Okay. So simplifying, again, you're going to factor top and bottom, cancel out what you can, and reduce if possible. Multiplying rational expressions is exactly the same, only you have more to work with. Okay, so I'm still just going to factor, cancel, reduce. So in this first piece here, I'm going to look at, oh, they both have an R. That's a GCF. I can take out an R. In my second one here, oh, they both have a 6. I can take out a 6. When I do that, I'm left with R minus 2. There is nothing I can do here with this 2R. Okay, and then here I'm going to look at what multiplies to give me negative 10, adds to give me 3. And I get R plus 5, R minus 2, which, surprise, surprise, end up canceling out. Also, our R's cancel, and I'm left with 6 over 2. I can divide both of those by 2, leaving me with 3 over 1, or just 3. So again, multiplying is exactly like simplifying, only we have a little bit more work. Okay, for B, I'm going to look at this first one. There's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to leave it. In this next one, I can take out an 8 from each of these. If I divide each of these by 8, I'm left with 1x minus 5. I can take out a GCF of 4 here. If I divide each of these by 4, I'm left with x plus 2. And then again, this is what we call a difference of squares, where that's having a 0x there. What multiplies to give me negative 25, that adds to give me 0, x plus 5 and x minus 5. My x plus 2's cancel, my x minus 5's cancel, and I have 8 over 4, which can both be divided by 4. I'm left with 2 and 1. I do not have to write that 1 on the bottom. I do have to write that 2 on the top. So I am left with 2 over x plus 5. Okay. The next two problems are both division. Reminder for division, we need to change it to multiplication, and then everything else is the same as above. So, for example here, if I want to change it to multiplication, I'm going to flip this fraction. So I'm just going to rewrite on the side, and then I'm going to cancel these out. And then everything is the same. All right, my first piece, 12, there's nothing I can do with that. All right, here, what multiplies to give me negative 6, that adds to give me 1. This is like an invisible 1 here. And that would be x plus 3 and x minus 2. That's going to multiply to give me negative 6, add to give me positive 1. Okay, here I can take out a 4. If I divide each of these by 4, I'm left with 1 and negative 2. And finally, here I can take out an x. If I take out an x, I'm left with x plus 3. So now let's see what cancels. Our x plus 3's, our x minus 2's. And then 12 over 4, 4 goes into both of those 3 times and 1 time. I do not have to write the 1 on the bottom, but I do need this x that's left over. All right, and then finally for B, I'm going to change this to multiplication, and I'm going to flip these. I'm going to just cross that out so I don't accidentally use it. All right, so that first one, again, that's what we call a difference of squares. What multiplies to give us negative 25, that adds to give us 0 is negative 5, positive 5. I have a GCF here. I can take out a 5, and I'm left with x minus 1. What multiplies to give me negative 15, that adds to give me 2, negative 5, and positive 3. Again, they multiply to give me negative 15, add to give me negative 2. And finally, what multiplies to give me negative 5, adds to give me 4, x plus 5, and x minus 1. A lot of things cancel out here. Our x minus 5's, our x plus 5's, x minus 1's, and we are left with a 5 on top and an x plus 3 on the bottom. Okay, so again, dividing is very similar to multiplying, only you need to flip that second fraction. All right, last is adding and subtracting. We're going to look at our denominators. If they are the same, then we're really happy. We're just going to add straight across. So for A, these are the same, so I'm going to keep that denominator, and then I'm just going to look for like terms. 3x, 1x is 4x, negative 5, and 13. Let me make sure that's a negative. Yes, it is. And 13 gives me 8. Done. All right, subtracting is the exact same, only I'm going to distribute that subtraction to both of these and make that a plus. And now since my denominators are the same, 3x minus 5x gives me negative 2x. Negative 4, negative 3 gives me negative 7. All right, it gets a little bit trickier when we have different denominators. The first thing we want to do is factor if we can. What multiplies to give me 5 adds to give me 6. 5 and 1. So then I'm going to look for what's my LCD. My LCD consists of the factors I have on the bottom. I have an x plus 5. Even though both of them have it, I'm only going to write it once. And I have an x plus 1. That means that my second fraction here is missing the x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by x plus 1. Whatever I do to the top, I need to do to the bottom. All right, so now this side I didn't change anything to, so it's still 3x minus 2. But this here I do need to distribute that 5 to both pieces, and this is my denominator. That LCD, x plus 5, x plus 1 is my denominator. My last step now would be to add any like terms I have on the top. I have 3x and 5x is 8x. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. Okay, and our last one here, again, be careful with subtraction. You want to make that a plus and distribute the subtraction there. Okay. For this one, our LCD, there's nothing to factor, but I'm just looking at those two pieces I have in the denominators. I have x plus 2. Since this side does not have x plus 2, it needs an x plus 2. And I have x minus 5. Since this does not have x minus 5, it needs an x minus 5. Again, whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I have some distributing here. I have 4x minus 20 and negative 7x minus 14. My denominator is that LCD, which is x plus 2, x minus 5. It does not matter which factor you write first on the bottom there. Okay, and then finally my like terms. I have negative 3x minus 34. Okay. All right. Hope to see you guys in the Google Hangout if you have any other questions on this review before your quiz on Wednesday, Thursday.